When people think about New York City, some things that first come to mind include the Empire State Building, Times Square, and the Statue of Liberty. However, New York City is much bigger than that. It consists of 5 boroughs, which are the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. Today, we're going to talk about which of these New York City boroughs has the highest incidence of COVID-19. So, let's get started. Ever since it started towards the end of 2019, COVID-19 has wreaked havoc around the world. However, New York City is the worst hit region. From its streets bustling with people, the Big Apple is now practically deserted. There have been about 178,000 cases of coronavirus in New York City. This represents 13.79% of all cases in the United States. The graph shown below shows us the coronavirus cases by borough. Based on this, we see that Queens has the largest number of coronavirus cases, whereas Staten Island has the least. Based on this information alone, can we conclude that Queens has the largest incidence of coronavirus? And the answer to that question is no. One of the reasons Queens might have this many coronavirus cases is because it has a large population. Hence, we need to compare the number of coronavirus cases relative to the population of each borough. According to the most recent US Census report, New York City has a population of more than 8,330,000 people. The pie chart shown below shows us the population breakdown by borough. Based on this, we see that 31% of New Yorkers live in Brooklyn, whereas only 6% of New Yorkers live on Staten Island. Because of these differences in population, we cannot solely consider the number of coronavirus cases to find out our incidence of coronavirus. Our research question earlier was focused on finding the probability of contracting COVID-19 in the 5 different boroughs. So how exactly do we find this? To do so, we use the conditional probability rule. According to this, let's consider 2 events A and B. The rule helps us to find the probability of event A given that we know the probability of a certain event B. Mathematically, this is equal to the probability of A and B happening together divided by the probability of event B happening alone. So let's use this to find the probability of contracting COVID-19 in the Bronx. We first need to define our 2 events. Let event A be contracting coronavirus, and let event B be that the person lives in the Bronx. We are interested in finding out the probability of contracting coronavirus given that the person lives in the Bronx. Using the formula from the last slide, we can plug stuff in and we see that the probability of contracting coronavirus given that the person lives in the Bronx equals to the probability of contracting coronavirus and living in the Bronx divided by the probability of living in the Bronx. The probability of contracting coronavirus and living in the Bronx is simply the number of coronavirus cases in the Bronx divided by the total number of people living in New York City. We can find both these values based on information we've seen before. The number of cases in the Bronx was exactly 39,587, whereas the population of New York City was over 8,330,000. Hence, we get a small probability of 0.0047. The probability of living in the Bronx is simply the population of the Bronx divided by the population of New York City. From the pie chart shown to the right, we see that 17% of New Yorkers live in the Bronx. Hence, the probability is just 17 divided by 100 or 0.17. Using the data from the previous 2 slides, we can find that the probability of contracting coronavirus, given that the person lives in the Bronx, equals 0.0047 divided by 0.17. This gives us a value of 0.0276. A conclusion we can draw from this is that the coronavirus has infected 2.76% of all people living in the Bronx. Using the conditional rule, we can find the probability of contracting COVID-19 in the other 4 boroughs as well. This graph shows you the probability for all the 5 boroughs. From this, we can see that a person living in the Bronx has a higher chance of contracting COVID-19 as compared to a person living in Manhattan.